The Nihility Path in Honkai Star Rail has been one of my favorite paths in the game since Kafka's release back in version 1.2, and the path has received some minor buffs over time, but Hoyoverse has already confirmed that we're going to be getting two new Nihility 5 stars in Black Swan during 2.0 and Acheron during 2.1. So today I want to discuss the current state of the Nihility Path and what I think can make the path more cohesive. And I do also want to preface this as well by saying that not only am I recording this and uploading this before the 2.0 live stream, where we'll get some official information about Black Swan, but I'm also not going to be referring to any dreams or unconfirmed rumors that there might be about either of these characters in this video, mainly because a lot of the times I just don't really look at those kind of rumors and everything. So definitely do keep that in mind. I know people are probably going to be in the comments saying, specific things that people have, speculated about or, have seen, had dreams about, stuff like that. But just prefacing this by saying I haven't really looked into that at all. So this is just going to be purely my own thoughts. So I do want to start out talking about the current state of the Nihility path. And just looking at the characters and from my experience with all the characters, there's really three main archetypes right now for Nihility characters. The first one is going to be your standard debuffer, which is you have Pela, you have Silverwolf, you have Well. And those three are going to be just like the standard ones. They'll debuff defense, debuff attack, all the different types of debuffs like speed, because Silverwolf and Wolf have that as well. So yeah, the standard debuffers just really focus on those, the things you normally think about when you think of debuffs. It's like mainly like stat debuffs and stuff like that. Then the second archetype are the DOT / break effect sub DPS kind of characters, which are going to be Sampo, Luca, and Gwynaifen. And I do say dot or break effect because depending on certain comps, depending on certain situations, you might want to run a break effect build over a dot build. Like, for example, from what I've seen, break effect Luca goes absolutely crazy. And, his break effect dot can also be re-triggered by Kafka. So yeah, it definitely does depend on the character, but you're either going to run them as like a dot build or a break effect build, depending on your situation for those three characters. But that is their main niche for Nihility. They're mainly just wanting to apply their dot and or break the enemy shield. And then the last archetype is your dot enabler, which is just Kafka right now, which I think is perfectly fine. She does perform very well, and she really is that kind of like special character to enable dot comps to work. So now I really want to dive into the main piece of this video of what I think the Nihility path really needs. So I think with the current state of Nihility, while Kafka's dot comps are typically right now helped by support characters like Ruan Mei, I know is very good. You have Huohuo, who's very good sustain while also providing some extra attack boost. And even people running Silverwolf still with the team are still able to get some solid debuffs that their dots can do more damage. But I feel like they are really missing an ace kind of character. Like, we have for DPSs, we have Imbiber Lune, we have Jing Liu. For the Destruction, for Hunt now we have like Sela, we have Dr. Ratio. For these more like offensive kind of characters. And I know Nihility isn't the most like offensive path in comparison with like Destruction, Hunt, and Erudition. I do think that with the way that Nihility has shaped up over the past almost year now, I do think that having a kind of ace on the team is going to be super beneficial. And I think the fact that we're getting two Nihility 5 stars in the next couple updates, that could be really good for these dot comps to have like an absolute ace. Because really the closest thing to an ace I feel like that we have is Kafka. But I feel like, just comparing running my dot team and running other teams, there just feels like less of an incentive for me to run my dot teams right now. But I do think that Black Swan and Acheron have a lot of potential. So to start with Black Swan, he is going to be the first 5-star Nihility character with since Kafka, which is very huge first of all, which means we haven't gotten a 5-star Nihility since 1.2, which is kind of crazy. And I also think that the fact she's wind makes it pretty likely that she's going to be DOT focused, which is really nice. And I feel like that's the sort of trend that they're doing here, because all the Nihility characters so far that have, that have dot elements, being physical, fire, wind, and lightning, all of those characters have ended up being DOT characters, while the standard debuffers are the elements that don't have dots. So I do think it's pretty likely that Black Swan will end up having some dots. And I think that with her being a 5-star, it also is pretty likely that her dots will be more beneficial, and they'll just do more damage, I think, than Sampo. So I do think that she'll kind of act as a bit more of an ace, because I do think that her dots are gonna have a crazy amount of output, especially as the first character that we can pull from the Penacony story. So I do think that Black Swan does have a lot of potential. Plus, also with Kafka's banner out right now, it definitely will be worth it for players that if they want Black Swan, they pick up Kafka now and then they get Black Swan right after, and they can have a pretty powerful team with that. Then in the case of Acheron, Acheron's a bit more of an interesting one, because at first people saw that she's Lightning Nihility and were like, wait a minute, that's the same element in path as Kafka. So while I don't think that she's going to have the same role as Kafka, I think Kafka is just going to be a role of her own for a long time, if not forever. I do think that Acheron could really be that true ace that people, or not even that people, but like I mainly would want from Nihility. Because I think that one character that can output a lot of damage, is meant to output a lot of damage, could be extremely well, especially as a 5-star. And this really, takes me back to the days when I played Genshin more consistently. Like I rarely log into Genshin nowadays, but as we all know, Acheron is the Honkai Star Rail equivalent of Raiden Shogun from Genshin, then Raiden Mei from Honkai Impact 3rd, I'm pretty sure. So I do think, from my experience using Raiden Shogun in Genshin, I do think that it'd be cool if they keep the same kind of, role for Acheron, being that main DPS kind of character. And I think probably the coolest thing that they could do, and as I said in the beginning of the video, I know nothing about like rumors, dreams, anything like that people have had about Acheron, but if she ends up being a DPS that focuses on increasing her damage per debuff on the enemy, that would probably be the coolest thing for her, with her being on the Nihility Path. I know some people were like, oh, why is she Nihility? Like, she should have been like Destruction Hunt, one of those more DPS centric paths. But I think they could do some really creative things with Acheron in the Nihility Path. So of course we'll have to wait a while before we get that information. Like, we're gonna have to wait like 6 weeks before Hoyoverse officially has the 2.1 live stream. But that is probably what I want the most from Acheron. And if she does have that kind of role, I think I'm definitely pulling for her. So overall, I think that with the addition of Black Swan and Acheron, like, no matter what they do, whether my wish list for them is what ends up happening, or if they do some different things as well, I do think that they are still going to benefit the Nihility Path overall, and really just become that ace that you'll need, whether it be for the Kafka dot comps with Black Swan, or just like a debuff centric comp in general with Acheron. But let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. I'm interested to see what y'all think of the Nihility, the comps, Nihility just as a path in general, because it has been one of my favorite paths, and it is kind of annoying to me that it just doesn't feel as good right now compared to like my Destruction Hunt characters in a decent amount of the content. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed and you haven't already, definitely be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and I will see you all next time.